Barr visuals as we bring you back into coverage for the Kick in the Tires 200K here from iRacing's virtual Circuit of the Americas. Justin Prince, Caleb Hoffman with you with the producer Zach Johnson. To reset how things have gone so far, we're coming into the end of lap 7, this time by, and one of the dominant storylines for tonight has been the dominance of Graham Bowen. He leads by 1.8 seconds over a battle that just seen a change for second. Brandon Hawken had maintained second for a good portion of this race until just a second ago when Dylan Alt sent it up the inside to pass the 0.99. But incidents have also been a part of the story so far, Caleb. Many contenders have lost their front clips already, in particular Liam Sheen, after he missed the brakes and slammed straight into a tire barrier. He's in 17th despite the no-nos on his car or hood.
Yeah, I mean, lap 1, we saw, 3 or 4 incidents in that lap alone. A lot of that has kind of been credited to, maybe some weaker brakes in these next-gen cars. It's been pretty clean for the guys up front, say maybe top 7, maybe top 8. But outside of that, it's just been, kind of a war zone. Lots of guys have had issues, overshooting corners, missing apexes, ending up in the gravel, that kind of thing. As you said, Liam Sheen's missing the front end of the car, and he's running top 15. Or excuse me, it looks like he's fallen outside of the top 20 at this point. But just lots of guys with issues, looking like a race of attrition at the moment.
We talked about the pace shown by Graham Bowen in the past on road courses. 2 seconds the gap. As mentioned in practice, he was at one point 2 seconds ahead of Dylan Alton Company on the board. And this isn't a surprise to see Graham Bowen showing great speed on a road course because that's where he broke through for a victory last year in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series in that thriller at Watkins Glen International, bumping and banging with Mitchell DeYoung to the end.
Yeah, I mean, looking right now, as we said pre-race, a lot of familiar names kind of up in this top 10. After again, the top 8 or so, you're kind of looking at some maybe more unfamiliar names. But, looking ahead, guys like Graham Bowen, Dylan Alt, Brandon Hawken, Blake Reynolds, Michael Gonzalez, Nate Stewart, Brian Mercurio, they've been contenders all year long and no different here at COTA.
Taking a look, meanwhile, one of the more intense battles around the mid-pack currently. This train currently led at the moment by Colin Fern, who's making his series debut tonight. Qualified 27th. He's up to 19th, one of the biggest movers. He's trying to hold off Jonathan Oates in that yellow and black machine. Ryan Doucette, who has the most spots gained at 15 in the mix as well. Nick Miller, who's been involved in some trouble as well. Already going to the right side, in fact, as Fern tries to go defensive on the left side of the racetrack, holds on to defend to the Dunlop Kart Sport machine.
Yeah, just a great overall battle here, still side by side. And, we've seen a lot of side-by-side action so far. Again, that top 5 is, a little bit spread out, but back through this pack with the amount of incidents we've had, everybody's still pretty bunched up. So we look down here, that's Nate Stewart. Looks like he's going to get passed by Michael Gonzalez. That is for the 5th position.
So a quick swap around for those drivers. 9 seconds back. We are approaching the end of stage 1, which means strategy likely to become a bit of a factor for some already. With the fall-off numbers for some of the competitors picking up a little bit. Keep in mind, a lot of drivers have picked up incident points, so there is that to factor in, but the fall-off, 1.6 seconds on average for a majority of the pack so far.
Yeah, and, a lot of this strategy-wise is really similar to what we saw today in the Real Life Cup Series race at Circuit of the Americas. We have this 2-lap buffer zone for pit stops, so, you can't really plan to come in with, less than 2 to go. Right now, if just to kind of reiterate for you, Graham Bowen, he's going to come across the start-finish line. He's going to make his way through turn 1, the S's portion of the track. Once he gets to the backstretch DRS line, that's when the stage will officially be called and caution will be thrown. So another change from the Real Life Cup Series, but making our way to it.
It's worth noting as well, though, on top of that close battle for 5th, there is a battle for the final stage point currently. Dylan Basin is holding off Michael Cozy Jr. for 10th position. For now, it's 8 spots gained for Cozy Jr. He tries to gain one more. Basin gets loose. Dylan Basin drops out of the top 10 coming to the final lap of stage 1.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard some chatter out of the Dylan Basin camp that, he's having a little trouble maybe with a shifter or something of the sort. So, yeah, I mean, Cozy's going to pounce on that all day. Great pass for 10th there as we make our way back up. Looks like Michael Gonzalez and Nate Stewart, that battle's heating up a little bit.
It's the battle of the blue cars. Again, final half lap or so now of the stage. White flag for the stage is now waving around the racetrack as Gonzalez getting a huge send from behind. Nate Stewart avoids contact, though. They keep it clean for the battle for 5th for now.
Yeah, Michael Gonzalez got a great exit there. Nate Stewart really committed to the entry and kind of sacrificed a little runoff. You see through the S's here, Nate Stewart carries so much more speed. Looking back at Graham Bolin, who is coming through the final turns right now.
Expecting the end of the stage coming up right here for Graham Bolin. Again, the DRS line is that mark. For reference, that is around the first third of the back straightaway that they are now reaching now. Graham Bolin and through lap 10, expecting the end of the stage coming up across that respective line. Waiting still for a signal as Bolin first. Alt, Hawken, Reynolds, Gonzalez, the top 5. Drivers being told to slow down from that point forward. Nate Stewart 6th. Brian Mercurio 7th. Landon Mills is in 8th. Connor Horn quietly moved up from 18th to 9th in the stage. And Michael Cozy Jr., he had a fiesta of cars battling for 10th. He holds them off, though, to get the final stage point for stage 1. As you see that top 10, top of your screen, the separation was about 11 or 12 seconds as they'll now slow down for the first pit window this time.
Yeah, and again, something else that's kind of unprecedented tonight as well is, you're not going to see a traditional caution. This is going to be a manual caution. So, all these guys will slow down to about 35 miles per hour. So they're being told, and just kind of pace themselves. No need for a paced car, paced truck tonight.
So race control will be giving the signal when pit road is open. It is officially open for drivers. Once some of the other big movers throughout all that, Nathan Rabideau is up 14 spots. Spencer Ray is up 11 towards the back of those field starters. A big shout out, though, to one driver, Kevin King, first lap, first corner, spun out in the middle of the pack. No one touched him. No one damaged his car. He's in 22nd.
Yeah, great rebound so far. And I mean, like I said, a lot of these guys have had a fair amount of trouble. That first lap especially, we had 3 or 4 separate incidents all in different sectors of this racetrack. So, a lot of these guys, once they got settled into that run, found themselves a lot cleaner, a lot better off. But, definitely something to watch here on this restart is maybe a few guys who, again, just aren't in that rhythm racing around this road course, catch some trouble.
By the way, the reason you've seen Kevin King with the damage, after he got not touched with that first incident, he was involved in a stack-up coming out of turn 12, hence the damage for the second portion. But the pit lane is open, and everyone coming down for service. The lucky dog under the caution, Alex Kalonix, he ended up having to come down after the first lap ended after the early incidents. We'll see if there's any strategy gambles taken by the field tonight. Looking like 4 tires the name of the game for a majority of the field so far, including Graham Bolin. He's off and away. First off, and Dylan Alt tried it. Nearly squeezed himself into the wall trying to take the race lead away.
Yeah, big move by Dylan Alt right there. That was a great exit. Wasn't able to get that final edge over Graham Bolin, but he certainly tried it. Maybe that's where we see a pass for the lead. Again, a really untraditional way to do it, but, you got to do it. You got to do it at a racetrack here like COTA.
2 drivers did get speeding penalties during that sequence, though. Kyler Wen, who was in the top half of the field, black flag. Ryan Doucette also got one. Those 2 drivers had been some of your hard chargers, so they will lose their track position. That's also valuable here at Circuit of the Americas, as they'll keep pace speed until the speed up zone coming through the stadium section.
Yeah, so believe right now we're going to be holding 35 miles per hour, and then once
Correct.
we get around to the traditional start-finish line, we'll go green from there. Really still interested by that move that Dylan Alt made. I mean, it shows you how important these restarts are because, Graham Bolin has been so much faster throughout warm-ups, throughout this race, just pure domination from that 48 machine. And now, Dylan Alt, maybe on one of these pit stops tries a little bit of a gamble in an effort to keep, slow up that Graham Bolin machine behind him.
And it's going to be interesting how this second stage now turns out. And for those tuning in for the first time, how the series works too is there's also the owner standings and the team standings to factor in. Speed Incorporated entered tonight as the team leader in the points. 1,773 points gathered with 1 victory on the trot. Lowline Racing in second. Nexus Esports, more than 300 points back. But First 4 Racing rounding out the top 4 in the mean team in the top 5. Speed Incorporated really picking up their speed this season.
Yeah, I mean, Speed Inc. they've been great all year. They've had several race winners. As you said, alluded to the 1 race win they have on the season. Most of their drivers are contenders week in and week out, so no surprise to see them at the top of the charts.
Amongst their cars, keep in mind for Speed Incorporated, Kevin McAdams in the 26 machine, the 84 with Kosman. Also amongst that label of drivers, hence where the victory comes from at the start of the year. The owner point leader is, as expected, your team, or rather overall leader, Michael Frisch in the standings, who is 16th on circuit. They'll speed up an hour, 10 miles an hour once they get to turn 16. Your expectations, though, for stage 2, to see if anyone tries to make some moves here as they start to double up for the restart.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, track position is so important because once we kind of get into this long green flag run, which I am expecting based on what we saw in stage 1, being that first car out at turn 1 is going to be super important. So I'm really interested to see if Dylan Alt, who has the high line, maybe tries to carry a little more momentum into turn number 1 to try to get a better drive off. Maybe you see somebody like Brandon Hawken drive it in. Blake Reynolds is back here. You got a lot of race contenders right here. Lots of guys who have a good head on their shoulders, know how to get it done.
They are reaching that point to speed on up. Again, your top 10 for the restart. Bowen, Alt, Hawken, Reynolds, Gonzalez, Stewart, Mills, Mercurio, Horn, and Cozy Jr. The top 10. Helton and Basin on the doorstep of that as well. Colin Firm picked up a few spots in the pit lane, is up to 14th with Austin Johnson. Once the top 14, can give credit to Liam Sheen, despite having no front clip on that machine still. He is inside the top 15 or so for the restart. We'll see how that car holds up. But just about to get ready for the start of stage 2. Kicking the tires, 200K from Texas. So far, Graham Bowen's led them all. It's a question of how does Dylan Alt try and battle this back, though? That's the big question, Caleb, as they are about to get to that start zone.
Yeah, race control just told them to pick it on up to 45 miles per hour, making our way through the last corners. You see the pace starting to pick up. Going to be interesting here, about to enter our restart zone. Maybe we'll see if Dylan Alt can try to make a big move into turn 1. It all happens right here.
We'll see how big the sends are now. Some craziness happened at the start of the race. We'll see if stage 2 is the same. Green flag is out, back underway from COTA. And a great restart for Graham Bolin. He tries to run away from the field. 2, 3, make it nearly 4 wide behind him for the hard-braking zone into turn 1. One driver misses the brakes again, and Liam Sheen, he's off into the tires. Liam Sheen hard to the wall again.
Yeah, it's that same thing that we saw on our first restart. Still beating and banging. Landon Mills make contact. Michael Cozy Jr. capitalizes big time on that as he's going to gain 2 positions, put him right in about the 7th position.
Colin Fern is also around. He's into the walls in the S's. Several drivers scattering about. Alt holds on to 2nd. Hawken holds on to 3rd. But Stewart was amongst the big movers off the jump. He's up to a race-high 4th position now and is hounding Hawken for 3rd position now. One of his best starts to the season.
Yeah, looking through the field, looks like we're settling down for the most part. This is going to be a big section to watch. This is where Liam Sheen had his big wreck earlier where he kind of missed that corner. So we'll see through here. Looks like everybody, for the most part, going to make it through clean, being pretty cautious so far. See a few cars kind of push the limit of that corner, but overall, we're still good. Ooh,
Caution is out. First full course yellow of the night. The 00 Jake Poulin spins in the middle of the racetrack. Several others are scattering about, and this was a possible risk during stage 1 several times. Ethan COTA blew a motor in incidents coming up to turn 11. Several more stacked up through turn 11. And the field is frozen for the first time tonight for the iRacing safety car.
Yeah, we were sitting up here in the booth earlier kind of wondering, why we weren't seeing cautions, because we did see a few accidents like that. But obviously, you see right here, the FTF admins felt like they needed a caution. You see there are multiple cars kind of in the middle of that racing line. Jake Poulin makes contact. That's Spencer Ray, Kevin King. So a good call to throw the caution right there, as we had, 3 or 4 cars off track stop.
Amongst them, Matt Taylor, one of the contenders in the Lionheart IndyCar Series, and as well as its overall racing series sanctioned competition. Wen, who had that penalty earlier, into the wall. Again, this is a battle for about 30th that ends up being the trigger in all this. This is Chris Wetz. Nowhere to go, but stop.
Yeah,
And he still gets hit for it.
Yeah, this is one of the more narrow portions of this racetrack, so definitely when you get some cars sideways, turned around, absolutely a big danger zone. You want to get that caution out as soon as possible.
So several drivers already saying, let's go to the pit lane now, but now this is a big part of the race now, because some of these laps in stage 2 will be turned under yellow, and will really adjust possibly the fuel mileage portion, but also the chances for drivers like Alt, Hawken and company to attack for this race lead, with Graham Bolin now having the chance to be attacked for said race lead again. After he's had some good launches, he's going to have to do it again now.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great opportunity, I think, for some of these guys that were in second and third, get to learn off that last restart. As you saw, Graham Bolin got a great run, just kind of courtesy of being the control car for the restart. But who knows, maybe Dylan Alt, Brandon Hawken, Nate Stewart, some of these guys can use that as a, learning opportunity. And, the more restarts we get, you see somebody make a big move, as we saw Brandon Hawken try to do into turn 1.
It's worth noting as well, though, we were talking about this prior to stage 1, as well as during parts of that said stage. The brakes are much different compared to the Gen 6 car, and for those who have the experience in the Grand National Series with the Xfinity Series car, it's very easy to lock up the brakes and send yourself flying into the tires a la Lido Machines pattern. Or even to a lesser extent, towards other people's back bumpers.
Yeah, I mean, really easy, like you said, to lock up these tires, so it's just kind of a strategy type thing. Do you want to take that risk and maybe send it a little deeper into the corner with that risk of, pulling a Liam Sheen and ending up in the tire barriers? Or do you want to, be more easy on that entry and, maybe try to get more of a run off the corner?
So 2 drivers have meatball flags as a result of the incident. Chris Wetz, that hit from behind you seen, actually broke his car. He is now out of the race. Ethan COTA blew a motor before that caution trigger. He is currently out of the race as well because of that. So 2 DNFs at least, minimum. Waterworth and Taylor also getting some repairs done. Matt Taylor has left the track as a result of that incident. And this first road course race of 2022, an FTF Cup Series competition. But again, it's Bolin, Alt, Hawkins, Stewart, Reynolds, Gonzalez, Cozy Jr., Mercurio, Horn, and Mills, the top 10 for the restart. And they're really trying to pick up the pace to get to the iRacing safety car, mind you. The lights are still on currently on that set pace car.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to sit here and, waste laps away under caution. Currently in an attempt, like you said, to try to get everybody bunched up back together. Really going to be interesting on this restart, I think. for some of these guys who've made their way up front with a little bit of damage. I mean, I'm looking right now, the Michael Cozy machine has a little bit of front end damage. Cars like that on back, more cars than not do have damage. Brian Mercurio has a little bit of damage on the back end of that car. Landon Mills had a few run-ins on that last restart. So more opportunities for bigger things to happen once these guys get bunched up off these restarts.
Drivers have been told they'll get the one-to-go signal down the back straight away. We'll see if anyone takes a chance to roll some strategy dice before the end of the caution period. One did take a peek. Michael P. Frisch trying to draw people in. No one followed him in. Actually, I think someone did, because there's the beeping. One driver is in. It's Landon Mills. Colin Fern is also in.
Yeah, really interesting strategy moves here. We were talking to drivers pre-race, and they said, for maybe 1 or 2 laps, you're going to make up a ton of positions. So what this tells me is that Landon Mills is expecting another caution here pretty soon. He wants to make sure his car on the short run is really handling well, has a lot of speed. So maybe he can, catch another caution. And
by the way, the commentator's curse seems to have hit offhandedly for Kevin King. You may have noticed he's lost his front clip as well, since mentioning that clip was still there during the pit stops. So Kevin King, turn 1, has become a bugaboo for the 29. Several taking damage repair as expected here too. So again, 1 to go for the restart this time around. Who should we be keeping an eye on for this restart with so many big movers now coming into play who have stayed out of the trouble, like Rabideau, Bryant, and Mitch Hobson as well? You can put in the mix too in the 13.
Yeah, I mean, just in general restart-wise, I mean, it's tempting to go with someone like Dylan Alt, who's going to have a track position advantage over Brandon Hawken. But I really think Brandon Hawken's going to be in an advantage here on the inside lane. I think he's going to be able to catch that run that Graham Bolin has, and we'll be able to get to the inside of Dylan Alt probably, and might be in position to make a pretty big move into turn 1. Maybe he tries to send it in, maybe bodies Graham Bolin for the lead.
There is that possibility. We'll have to see. Drivers are currently having an interesting discussion, though, using their pace lap to discuss things. They want to see races at various road courses. Where would you like to see these next-gen cars race at in FTF Cup Series competition? Some of the suggestions: Knock Hill, Interlagos. You also have a toss-in of Jefferson Reverse in reference to some of the iRacing tracks that you race in as beginners.
Yeah, I mean, the next-gen car really opens up a lot of those opportunities, I think, to race at some more non-traditional tracks. You don't have to stay as adhered to the NASCAR Cup Series scheduled as you did in the past. I mean, you can really just open it up and really run wherever you want. I mean, there are probably a few fun places on the service, like Okayama sounds pretty fun with some of these next-gen cars, comes to mind. Again, maybe some more of those more traditional open wheel tracks. Just a lot of fun opportunities with this next-gen car.
By the way, you just heard there as well, Nate Stewart clutching, thinking about the fuel mileage possibly. It's not an easy car, though, this next-gen machine, to save fuel in. You're on board once again. Not the easiest car to try and stretch the mileage in compared to the clutch and coast that worked more efficiently in Gen 6 competition.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 50% fuel tank, so, you're only able to hold about half as much fuel as you would traditionally be able to. So again, maybe a sign that Nate Stewart expects a long run, wants to, make sure he has fuel in the back half, maybe trying to make up spots on pit road.
Race control now informing drivers to have fun as well as giving good lucks. One driver who's ready to go, who has been showing his displeasure of pace laps, has been Austin Johnson. It's worth noting, when he gets disappointed, he has a tendency to moan. Let's put it that way. Welcome to FTF, everybody. Graham Bolin, ready to get us underway again. here for the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series. Stage 2 action continuing for the kick in the tires 200K. One in control of the field with Alt to his right. Pace car off. Green flag waits up at the stand. Back underway.
Saw a really interesting strategy out of Michael Gonzalez right there. He really waited on that last hairpin and matted it pretty early. It didn't work to his advantage. He's going to send it now down to the inside. Brian Mercurio as well makes it 4 wide going into turn 1. They're going to make it out all right, but really close call there.
Everybody gets incident points, but everybody makes it through. Graham Bowen single file. Alt held on despite a massive lockup and send from Brandon Hawk in a second. Side by side, Cozy Jr. fighting hard with the 67 of Connor Horn. Horn trying to keep it that way through the S's. Trying to charge it hard on the gas. Has the preferred line. Nearly doors him.
Still side by side here. These S's are so much fun because that preferred line just changes so much. You see now Connor Horn on the inside. He hits the tire or the rumble strips, excuse me. Gives Cozy the advantage. Big slide in front of Cozy. Brian Mercurio there.
Mercurio nearly got loose and nearly spun it around. Horn locks it up. Logan Helton thought about a send. Couldn't make it the grip stick. More trouble behind them. Blake Bryant, Matthews Wax. Several more stack up. Will this trigger a caution? Two are stopping the track. That might trigger it now with a third spun around. There it is, and we'll be under caution again.
Nick Miller is very displeased over the radio right now.
And once again, two major incidents coming out of turn number 11, should say. And coming out of that complex to turn 10 on 4 to said mark. Brent Pancari stopped on the circuit. Significant damage. He now pulls off as let's take a look. This is the first incident. Two drivers stop here. Brian gets the worst of it. Then everybody else starts to join in the fun. Including that.
Yeah, looks like they're investigating that secondary incident that collected Nick Miller right there. Trying to see what happened there. We'll take another look on this replay right here. Oh yeah, that 614 machine just kind of hooked it across the nose of the 35 and collected Nick Miller there.
That's Thomas Kohick. He did not have point provisionals entering tonight, mind you. Had to qualify his way in. He avoids it and then comes back across the rumble strips and collects two cars on the gas.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that same thing happen a few weeks ago at Phoenix. Actually, real fast, looks like Kevin King has run off track under yellow here. He's in the sand trap in turn number 20. And
they're really trying hard to catch up to the field, some of these drivers, mind you.
Yeah, just locked up the brakes going into the corner, was going about 80 miles per hour into that turn 20 hairpin. So not exactly what you want to be doing, but let's see here. Looks like he'll be okay for the most part. We'll probably just have to continue this race without a hood.
We are not at the end of the stage yet, mind you. We're not at the stage trigger. Race control has confirmed there is currently a projected stage caution coming still. To keep that in mind, several drivers coming in that time around. Dwayne Wen, who has a meatball flag due to significant damage. Colin Fern, who was involved in the wall incident before the last caution. Brian, who was involved in that last incident with Kohick. So we're back under yellow again. Falling on board as they parade themselves around. Now this is Brandon Hawken, who looks to hold on to track position for the restart coming up in a few laps. Michael Cozy Jr., keep in mind, is now in 8th with that battling Michael Frisch up to 10th after the good grip coming out of turn 11 in that battle with Logan Helton.
Yeah, looking through, everybody is on the same strategy for the most part. Looks like Kevin King came in after that damage, so he's on some fresher tires than everybody else at the moment. Again, just super interested in the tire fall off aspect, as we heard earlier. Just want to reiterate that, tire fall off wasn't as extreme as kind of expected. A lot of these guys, after 2 laps were really starting to even out. So we saw that last caution. A lot of guys came in who were expecting that short run to try to, make up spots and then catch that next caution. And, they got that caution, but it almost happened a little too quickly for the tires to make any difference. So interested to see if that affects what we see here.
When it comes to Circuit of the Americas, for those watching for the first time, this track built in Austin, Texas, originally opened to host Formula One Grand Prix, the United States Grand Prix, in fact, amongst the very prominent parts of the schedule for Formula One, being joined by several U.S. states as of the next couple years, with Miami and possibly another in the future. This track has hosted a lot of different competitions, mind you, before moving to stock car racing hosting action as of late. You had, as mentioned, Formula One. The W Series made its debut last year here. MotoGP's raced here many times. Moto America. And on top of things, the Trans Am Series has the Heacock Classic that's been held here since 2015. And it's an intriguing track in turn for a facility that its billionaire founder and biggest investor called the site of Speed City before the naming rights to various parts of the facility had been originally discussed. Before said naming was decided to be Circuit of the Americas, there was a talk to potentially name it something different via naming rights, and it didn't go that way.
Yeah, I mean, as you alluded to, Trans Am raced here a lot, and that's really the kind of style of race car that the next gen really aim to try to not mimic, but kind of take after in a way. As the Real Life Cup Series really wanted to make an emphasis on road course racing. So with these next gen cars, you see the rims are significantly different now. We have that single lug, bigger rim to fit in a larger brake package, which should help for road courses like these.
Yeah, and look at this. Some strategy gambles here with these drivers for said road course, knowing there's still going to be a stage caution. Michael Gonzalez, Dylan Basin, Mitch Hobbs, and several others are rolling the dice coming up to the potential restart in a few laps' time.
Yeah, and again, I mean, that's just wanting these fresh tires for this restart here. You're going to get a caution here soon. Really surprised that more people didn't come in, honestly, because now guys like Michael Gonzalez, they're going to have a significant tire advantage on most of these guys. Again, it is, only a 1 or 2 lap advantage, but again, that's the run you're looking at here as we're, coming close to the end of stage number 2.
We'll take a quick break. We're under caution for the Kicking the Tires 200K. You're watching the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series from iRacing's virtual Circuit of the Americas. Graham Bowen leads over Dylan Alt, Brendan Hawkin, Nate Stewart, and Blake Reynolds. Welcome back to tonight's coverage of the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series on FTF GG. Justin Prince, Caleb Hoffman with you alongside Zach Johnson for coverage of the Kick in the Tires 200K. Approaching the end of lap 17 this time by a couple laps to go in stage 2. Graham Bowen has led them all so far. Will that maintain to be the case is the biggest question on a lot of people's minds, with half the field rolling the strategy dice under this full course yellow after an incident off of turn 11, meaning strategies much varying across the pack now.
Yeah, I mean, we saw guys who were up front. Michael Gonzalez, namely, came into the pit road there. Interested to see where he winds up. Lots of these guys who had just pitted are looking about 17th, 18th right at the moment. So interesting to see where they'll end up. We'll take the stage caution here in just a few laps.
So as the tempers continue to flare in Texas, will the battle for the race lead flare up again? Let's see. Green flags out, backing away. Graham Bowen in control of the field. And another good launch for the Charlotte Phoenix machine. The Toyota Camry tries to run away from Alt. Side by side for third again. To the inside, Brandon Hawkin locks it up again for the battle for second. Off to the runoff area goes Bowen. 3 wide for the race lead.
3 wide for the race lead. Was gonna mention that Graham Bowen really locked up the brakes, and that opened the door for Dylan Alt. Brandon Hawkin didn't get quite the desired result out of that, but now Dylan Alt has control of this race lead for the first time today. He's going to try very desperately to not only keep Graham Bowen behind him for these 2 laps to the stage, but as well for the rest of this race.
A big change up now. Can Alt hold on is the question. Remember, Dylan Alt dropped back 2 seconds by the end of stage 1. Brendan Hawkins keeps the pressure up for third. Now the bigger question, will we make it past this section of the racetrack? This has been the trouble spot all night. The run through turn 11 in the heart of the pack in particular. Trying to go to the inside there, you see Liam Sheen in the battle for about 20th position. No incidents, we stay green.
Yeah, great job by everybody there. We have a few cars slow, but otherwise perfectly fine getting through there. Looking back up at the front of the pack, Graham Bowen sends it in big on Dylan Alt. They make contact side by side again for the race lead. Maybe opens the door for Brandon Hawkin.
Trying to go for the switchback now, Bowen. He goes to the back bumper of Dylan Alt. Alt tries to go defensive. Bowen tries to bump him again. Bowen trying the long way around to keep the grip. Can't make it work quite yet.
What a move by Graham Bowen. Just sent it in, made contact with the rear bumper. Oh, and we got trouble.
Jonathan Oates stopped in the middle of the racetrack. We stay green for now. Everybody else avoiding Oates. And that will not help the 73's case. One more car just about getting into him in the back. But the battle's going to continue across the pack. The race lead is now getting to its busiest point all night with a couple laps to go in stage 2.
Yeah, we'll see if, maybe Graham Bowen decides to try a big move like this.
Can Bowen make it stick? He did. Alt gave him the space. Graham Bowen back to the race lead.
What a move by Graham Bowen right there. Sent it in deep, was able to clear the 40. And again, was able to make it stick. Not something that we've particularly been able to see tonight. So a big change of pace, and Graham Bowen with a big move just shows his strength in that 048.
He's trying to build up the buffer. You take a look at Michael Cozy Jr. had some troubles. He's back to 14th. So some of the trouble. He was 8th at the start of the lap, by the way. That was after he got turned around a full 360 after hitting the turtles. The race lead again. Alt to the inside through turn 11. Bowen gives a bit of space. Alt gets the run. Drag race once again to the back straightaway.
Yeah, this is what this big back...
Trouble behind them. Connor Horn gets tangled up with Nate Stewart. Horn to the inside wall. We stay green. Drag race up towards turn 12 for the race lead still on. Bowen to the right. Alt to the left side. Alt tries to watch as Bowen tries to use off the runoff space. A squeeze again from the 048.
My goodness, great battle once again. Grant Boland's able to come away with the advantage, but still side by side. Keep in mind, coming to the stage, white flag here, where we'll have about a lap and a half to go. Dylan Alt still really aggressive, trying to carry his momentum with him up the outside. Graham Boland still with the preferred lane, but Dylan Alt not letting that stop him.
Alt back to single file. All this is while Blake Reynolds is quietly up to third position. So 1, 2, 3 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers with a fourth one and P5. Coming up to the final half lap or so on the stage. Trying to battle it out still. One more car is off behind them. This is again one of the Logic Gialtas esports machines in trouble. We stay green as the battle for the lead has Alt to the right side trying to make it work. No, he tries to switch instead.
Yeah, you're starting to see super aggressive moves again coming to this stage finish right here. Graham Boland really had to use up his stuff to get past Dylan Alt. Now Dylan Alt hard charging, just trying to get the stage win, whatever means necessary.
Will we try and move them? Remember, the DRS line down the back straightaway will be the end of the stage coming up. Alt trying to set himself up for the S's. Reynolds in the popcorn seat. Holding on still is Bowen. A bit of a wiggle. Here comes Alt. The block. A scissor block as Alt forced to check up. Will he go for a send back? He does. Alt to the left. Bowen to the right. Side by side for the stage 2 victory. Bowen with the better power. Here comes Reynolds now. Reynolds going for it. To the end of the stage, Graham Bowen in front of Reynolds and Alt. They wait for the signal and get it now. It's Bowen, Reynolds, Alt, Hakkinen, Mercurio, the top 5 in stage 2's end.
What a finish to our stage number 2. My goodness. Blake Reynolds with a great move out of the hairpin right there in turn 11. Down this long back straightaway to take the second spot. My goodness. And if that stage finish is any indicator of what we're going to see later tonight, man, are we in for a show.
Michael Frisch rounds out the top 6. Logan Helton, Nate Stewart, Landon Mills. Liam Sheen is in 10th with all that to end stage 2. And now the chess match begins. When we get back going, about 16 laps to go, and a majority of the field pit under the 2 previous cautions, that may cycle drivers such as Nick Miller and Michael Gonzalez to the head of the field if they elect to stay out instead here. Keep in mind, the first who had pit previously is Mills, in fact, from 2 cautions ago.
Yeah, and Grant Boland there, I think he showed a lot of tenacity on that restart. I mean, was put in a position that he didn't want to be in. And, you know, instead of cycling out of this, you know, top 2, maybe even top 3, he really just took it back, you know, maybe because he wanted it more. I mean, I don't know, just lots of speed out of this 048. Great move to, you know, retain this lead.
They told him to go 35 miles an hour. They're going 35 miles an hour. Now they're going 30 into a pit lane that has a speed limit of 50. And there is the trickery coming into play. Into the lane goes the front of the field, and as expected, drivers are staying out. Nick Miller is staying out. Michael Gonzalez is not. A few others are trying the gamble. Jake Poulin, Kevin Kane, Matthew Zwack, Mitch Hobbs, Alex Kolinix, who had a lucky dog earlier, amongst those staying out as the rest of the field is in.
Yeah, really kind of confused by this move by Michael Gonzalez. You know, theorized on that last caution where he did pit that it was, you know, a short run move. But, you know, now it kind of feels like he sacrificed his track position for nothing because he thought maybe he'd try to stay out once this stage end kind of caught up with us. But comes back down and retains, you know, about a top 15-ish spot. So confusing move at the moment. Who knows? Maybe we'll see it play out in some way coming to the finish here. But now he's on cycle with everybody else.
Nate Stewart amongst those getting some damage repairs done, in fact, under this caution after that slam with the inside wall. Taken up with Horn. But now this field will really be tested here. 9 drivers have stayed out. Another couple have taken either fuel only or 2 tires. Cosman and Eshu has taken 2. Fuel only for AJ Green. However, they're in the 21st and 23rd respectively. Everybody else either got repairs done or just took the 4 tires and the gas. Bigger question too, who's going to make it to the very end of the field for fuel runs, I should say, to make sure they make it on gas with the 50% limit in the tanks?
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, so today our stage cautions have been at lap 10, lap 20, and now we have a 16-lap run. Now, any cautions are really going to kind of kill any type of fuel trickery we have going on tonight. But, you know, after that first stage where we did see it go green all the way, you know, maybe you do see, you know, some fuel strategy come in at the end here. You got 6 extra laps to account for, and keep in mind at a track here like COTA, this is one of the longest tracks, if not the longest track that the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series is going to visit all season. So, you know, the difference between, you know, turn 11 and turn 20 is, you know, pretty sizable. So, you know, maybe stretching that out over, you know, 3 or 4 laps. It's going to be interesting to see if guys can stretch, you know, maybe clutch a little bit like we saw Nate Stewart doing earlier, just to try to get every ounce of fuel they can.
So plenty of different strategy gambles coming up here for the restart. Again, doubling them up. Left side, we'll see Nick Miller leading the field. Dylan Basin on the right side. Jake Poulin, Kevin King, Mitch Hobbs, Matthew Zwack, Alex Kolinix, Nathan Rabideau, David Brown. Graham Bolin is the first driver who pit under the previous caution that just took place to end the stage, followed by Alt, Reynolds, Mercurio, Hawken, Helton, Mills, Sheen, Horn, Frisch, and Gonzalez. The top 20. Several drivers trying to figure out which way is which, so we'll see if they are able to sort it out before taking the green flag here. 15 laps up on the board, Caleb. This is about to be the true test of the night for some of the contenders this evening to see if they can get through without getting involved in contact that's been so infamous off these starts tonight.
Yeah, not only tonight, but it feels like throughout the entire season. I mean, you know, throw it back to a few weeks ago. I believe it was Las Vegas. Blake Reynolds dominated that race and then, you know, got off cycle just a little bit, caught up in some traffic, and all of a sudden was involved in an incident and was out for the night. You know, Graham Bolin could find himself in a similar situation here. It's all just a matter of getting through all of these cars cleanly, with, you know, making sure you don't use up your stuff. So, you know, if you find yourself in a position late in the race, you know, you don't want to have all your stuff have been used up already.
On the left side is the team. On the right side is North Force Racing for Technical Alliance backing. Some very talented drivers ready to see if they can try and hold on with some good backings in turn. So we're about to see how this all plays out. For those tuning in for the start of Stage 3, you're watching the Kicking the Tires 200K for the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series. The race lead has been dominated for 19 to the 20 completed by Graham Bowen before this end of the stage previous. Dylan Alt led 1 lap after a mistake by Bowen off the last restart of Stage 2. Those drivers starting in the heart of the pack now for the first time tonight. Nick Miller, who was involved in incidents a couple cautions ago, trying to keep his damaged machine at the very tippy point of the field. Poulin had also spun across the middle of the track at one point involved in the incident. Basin, he's just trying something different for NFR. iRacing pace car is off. Restart zone coming up into play. Green flag waits up with a stand. Back underway. And a great launch for Nick Miller.
Yeah, Nick Miller, like you said, just a great launch. And actually looks like he's going to clear the entire field by a few car lengths. Matthews whack, big sin, locks up the brakes going into the corner. Going to work out to his advantage. He's going to be side by side with Kevin King for third. What a move by Matthew Zwack on the inside.
3-4 wide through the first corner. Everyone makes it for the most part. One driver spinning towards the back. In fact, it's 2. Amongst them is Brown. One driver jumping to the grass currently is Michael Cozy Jr. Everybody else trying to battle it out 2 by 2. Looking now at the front of the field, though. Basin keeping the pressure up. Basin with a clean race car. They have Kevin King without his hood behind him. And then Zwack and Bolin are trying to come in quickly after that send through turn 1.
Yeah, Grant Bolin restarted 9th and has already made up 4 positions. He's going to try to make it 5 to the inside of Matthew Zwack. He's going to get it relatively easy. Here comes Dylan Alt, maybe. Another position on Matthew Zwack as he gets a little off track into the grass. Grant Bolin now up to 4th position, and he's hunting down that damaged Kevin King machine in front of him.
Trying to close up indeed to these machines right now. They have 1.6 seconds to gain over Miller and company for the race lead. They stay single file for now. A major lockup behind them. Trouble for Mitch Hobbs. Caution is out. Several cars are scattered about. Coming out of turn 12, they are still piloted into the Armco barriers coming off the corner.
Yeah, and that was just a result of that long backstretch into turn 12 was a spot that we were looking for all night. Brian Mercurio locked up the brakes big time. Slid right back into the guys in front of him. I believe he ran directly into the number 13 of Mitch Hobbs, and just an unfortunate lockup there for Brian Mercurio. Really not just probably the worst time to be able to do it.
The car that Brian Mercurio got into with that lockup was Mitch Hobbs, and it was a T-bone of an incident with Mercurio missing those brakes there and locking it up. And it just goes right perpendicular across the racetrack, a very dangerous spot, hence the trigger for the caution. And then you got the 7 different cars spinning. You see, because of this.
Yeah, replay right there, as you see. Brian Mercurio again just locks up those brakes and has nowhere to go but into the Mitch Hobbs NOS Ford Mustang. And you see just nowhere to go for a lot of these guys. On board with Brian Mercurio there, really just sends it in, trying to make up as many spots as possible, locks it up, and again, just nothing really anybody can do at that point. You're committed. Once those brakes lock up on you and start failing, it's just you're along for the ride at that point.
Several major contenders involved, like Bryant was amongst those spinning, Michael Cozy Jr. significantly involved. And keep in mind, there were 3 wide with Reynolds and company right before that too. Hawking gets a bit of a ricochet. You have several fast drivers and several drivers at the top of the standings getting some bit of contact and some deciding to join in on the fun.
Yeah, and you see just the fallout coming from that. I mean, it just bunched everybody back together, and you know, really just tough position. Again, Brandon Hawken, he's been, you know, running 3rd to 5th all night. It felt like he's been in that range, and you know, after those pit stops, just gets caught up in, you know, a place that you don't want to be in, that mid-pack section, and just has nowhere really to go. So just an unfortunate turn of events for Brandon Hawken tonight. He's going to have to try to salvage a good finish with a damaged race car.
EOL penalty for cause of caution to Brian Mercurio, as he'll go to the back of the pack, and that takes him out of the equation. But give good credit to Nick Miller. He had a great restart, looked clean offset restart, was holding firm onset restart despite significant back end damage and some of the damage on the sides of the car. And he's in a very good spot right now with his strategy, depending on how things fare out if it becomes a caution-breed-caution scenario.
You know, from what we've seen tonight, it has definitely been a caution-breed-caution scenario. I mean, after that initial start, we had a few incidents on lap number 1, and after that, it was relatively clean. We didn't have any cautions thrown for those incidents on lap 1. And then once we got to that stage 1 caution, that start of stage 2, that's when everything kind of started to become unhinged. You know, we started to have, you know, that we had that first initial turn 11 caution. You know, after the restart from that, had a caution. So it's definitely been a caution breed caution scenario tonight. It's just a matter of, you know, 14 laps to go. Are we gonna get another caution within, you know, 10 laps to go, something like that? Because if we do, that's going to majorly affect how these guys try to stretch it out on fuel, tire wise. I mean, really just don't know yet, but we will hear within a matter of laps.
Still waiting on a word for signals, as an hour credit to give to the 22 machine. Yes, it's partly with strategy. Remember, he was involved in an incident on lap 1. Had to pit under green and get the car damage. Lost the lap. Took the lucky dog at the end of stage 1. got the car fixed again under the caution at the end of the stage. And with his strategy roll of the dice, he's in 7th here in the 22.
Yeah, been a rough night for the for Alex Kolnick so far tonight. As you alluded to, has been involved in a few accidents tonight, as you see by the lack of front bumper on that race car. But right now, sitting 7th, not that bad of a night in terms of what you're going to get out of points so far. So a great job by that number 22 to salvage a decent points finish.
Looks very mellow as well, because when it comes to pace laps, you can stay pretty mellow. Into the pit lane goes some drivers. Amongst them, a lot of them is the better phrasing, because you have Nathan Rabideau, Michael Gonzalez, several others involved in the incidents. Kevin Kane, without that front hood, is in. A vast majority of the pack, in fact, electing to come on in.
Yeah, 13 laps to go. At this point, I don't know if you want to take 4 tires and fuel, just because you do have that possibility of a caution here very soon. But it's definitely something you want to think about. You see a lot of these guys with, not as much to lose, guys like, Brandon Hawken, who was involved in that last accident. Michael Gonzalez, who was running up front earlier, got caught behind on pit stops. Just, trying to make something happen out of nothing, I'd say, coming in for 4 tires and fuel at the moment.
So continuing to pace about with 13 to go now on the circuit. Amongst those who are shuffling about as a result of some of the strategy gambles, Andrew Cootie in the 25. Where did he come from? Because he was having some struggles at the start of the race in the other Guardian Esports machine. He's now, with them staying out and some of them pitting around him, to 7th position.
Yeah, just another one of these guys who, again, just trying to make something out of nothing. Having a rough night so far, but hey, if you can stretch your fuel, if you feel comfortable with maybe staying out, skipping a stop or two, you can definitely make up track position. At the moment, looks like he's made his way up from 18th to running 7th now. So, that on-track pace maybe not going to be on par with some of the other, type of contending cars tonight, but definitely can hold his own maybe in this top 10 to top 12 range.
Still waiting for the indication if we'll get the one to go this time by. And as he discusses things, why don't we get the chance to speak with the Guardian Esports driver? Cootie currently amongst the top 10 at the moment, and is now joining us in the broadcast booth. Andrew, it's been an interesting night for you. You're now in the top 10. How does it feel to be in top 10 land?
That is an interesting question, to say the least. I kind of dumb, what it is on the first lap, and may have wrecked a few cars at the beginning. Definitely my fault on that one, but just kind of played I saw everyone pit, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna stay out. I should be able to make it to the end, but I don't know. We're just gonna hope for a couple cautions maybe, and get lucky. I'm not even going for a win because I know that I don't really probably have a chance. So I'm just going to hope for a decent finish, top 20, top 15, top 10. Any of those will be fine for me, because even though I won the tiny text, it's not like it's, this is an actual FTF race compared to tiny text.
One to go signal has been given to you and your fellow drivers. How difficult has it been to make sure you hit your marks here at Circuit of the Americas tonight? Just out of curiosity.
Mostly the braking zones, the heavy braking zones, 11 and 1. Those are definitely rough for me. I'm locking it up and flat spinning the tires just about every time, and it's just you can put so much brake into the corner or down the straightaway, and it's just insane how much brake compared to the old cars, and it's just like I don't know. I'm still learning as much as everyone else around here, so we're just gonna hope for the best and take what we can get. If we wreck, we wreck. If we don't, we don't. But can't thank the Guardian Esports guys enough. The Bruzy, Rays, and Guardian Designs. That's the team. Guardian Esports, our team. Mm-hmm. So can't thank these guys enough. Alex is running Road to Pro, and we got season 24 rod car starting up this weekend or this Friday, so we'll definitely check that out. But we're coming to green here, so
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the time, Andrew.
yeah, no problem.
That's Andrew Cody, currently inside the top 10. We'll see how the restart fares out. 12 to go when the green flag flies. It is Nick Miller in the lead, with Dylan Basin in second. Green flag is out, backing away from the Circuit of the Americas. Here comes Bowen and Alt. They're thinking about 3 wide in a turn 1. They stay 2 for now. Bowen goes for the lead. Bowen tries to send it. Bowen licks the stamp. Bowen sends himself to the mailbox and slams it over. Caution is out. Kolnick's involved. And the contender of the night, Graham Bowen, is done. Hawkin and company join him into the sand.
And is that not exactly what we said earlier? You know, these leaders, these guys that have been dominating, finding themselves kind of cycled back into that pack, desperate to get back up front, and you see it right there. Just a big move, sends it way too far into turn 1 and ends up in the tire barriers. My goodness, what a turn of events. And now your main contender of the night, the guy that has dominated this race, might not even finish.
So Graham Bowen, who led a majority of the laps tonight, he went for it. He went straight into the wall as they stacked up in the middle of the corner. Heavy damage for Cozy Jr., for Hawkin. Several more, like Kolnick, stopped in the middle of the circuit. One of the Guardian Esports drivers. AJ Green, EOL penalty as well in the sequence, but man.
You see it right here, Graham Bowen, my goodness. Who could have seen this coming? I mean, he's been the most smooth and consistent guy all night. I was going to talk about on this restart, you saw Nick Miller get that huge run, and that was so big because Graham Bowen had that position. And you see, he just goes for it all right here. You have, what, 11 laps to go? And now looks like you're going to be watching the finish from your motorhome.
And you see how quickly he immediately said, I'm going to said motorhome. And then they started wrecking behind him in the same corner sequence. Kolnick, remember, started top 5 at the drop of the green for the restart. And he, along with several others, significant damage. Hawkin without a hood. Green's hit several times over. Man, the contention and the battle in turn for said contention for the win has just flipped upside down. Dylan Alt is up to second with that crash, by the way, to the car who led the majority of the laps in Graham Bowen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because, you know, Graham Bowen has been our, you know, dominator of the night, and now Dylan Alt's in that catbird seat. You know, looking back at this cause of our caution, Graham Bowen obviously shot off into turn 1, and then, you know, there was just more contact, and that was between Alex Kolnick and the 01 machine of AJ Green. So, you know, I have this sneaking suspicion that as we get deeper into this race, as, you know, the intensity starts to pick up, as the desperation also starts to pick up, that we're going to start seeing more moves like Graham Bowen just made, you know, more contact like AJ Green and Alex Kolnick just made. Definitely don't feel like we're going to be done with this this race anytime soon. 11 laps to go. That's plenty of time for more stuff like this to happen.
Lucky dog this caution, Jonathan Oates, by the way, who is 2 laps down currently. And there are several drivers in the competition for biggest recovery drives who topped off on gas last yellow. Kevin McAdams, Colin Ferd are in the top 10 now after the pandemonium. And that's the intriguing thing. Kevin McAdams has been bounced around several times. Colin Fern, in his first start of the season, was into the tire barrier in the S's in stage 1.
And Nick Miller has really been on the beneficial end of our cautions tonight. Obviously got up front because of fuel strategy, and now has had the benefit of being that control car, which is so important at a track position, or track where track position is so important. So, you know, Nick Miller now does have a fair amount of damage. It's just a question of, on this restart, is he going to be able to hold off guys like Dylan Alt? Is he going to be able to hold off guys like Blake Reynolds? We'll see right here.
Meanwhile, everybody wants to become the pace car, apparently, because everyone is passing the pace car. And no, you can't do that long term. So they'll end up saying, okay, original pace car, you can go again. But as everyone plays with the pace car currently, under 10 laps to go at the Circuit of the Americas, fuel definitely a thought process for Miller and Basin. But for the rest of the pack here, this is going to have a massive shakeup for how the postseason window could come into play now for some. Because, well, it has been a wild night for many of your championship contenders when it comes to who entered the night strong in the points. You had a majority of the drivers up front either not make the grid, or in some cases, finish strongly.
Yeah, I mean, look at our top 10 right now and tell me how many guys have won. I mean, I'm looking right now, and just off the top of my head, I believe Blake Reynolds and Dylan Alt are the only two drivers that have won so far this season. So, I mean, you're looking at Nick Miller, who hasn't visited victory lane, Dylan Basin, Kevin McAdams, who coming into the night was asking him how he felt, and he thought he was going to be, riding around last place all night, and he's now inside the top 5 with 11 laps to go. Colin Fern making his first start tonight. Jake Poulin, who hasn't had the strongest of seasons, is sitting in 7th right now. Landon Mills has kind of been consistently 8th or 9th all night. Connor Horn kind of in that same range. I mean, a lot of these guys just haven't visited victory lane yet, and that's a big thing to watch when you have a point system like FTF has, where wins are going to lock you into the playoffs.
Jordan Durasic is also, mind you, one of the biggest movers of the night now, up to 10th. We haven't mentioned the 615's name all evening, and I will say this, he kind of went under the radar based on what we've seen from him this evening in qualifying in the 20s, and now, partly with strategy, partly with survival, and partly with just minding his own business, has a chance to have a strong finish here. He has been around this top 10 mark since around the end of stage 1. He's had 3 previous starts, mind you, or at least 3 previous attempts. He last made a start at Daytona and finished in 6th back in January.
Yeah, I mean, looking around him, there are tons of guys like Michael Cozy Jr., you got Michael Gonzalez, Nathan Rabideau. These guys have been, kind of sitting in that mark where, maybe they are prepared to pounce as, wow, big move here. Looks like Dylan Basin coming down pit road.
He can't make it. Dylan Basin can't make it on gas, it looks like, so he's taking tires as well. And that brings to the forefront all the questions to Nick Miller over the radio. Can the 19 make it on gas to the end?
Yeah, looking right now, so they're going to be coming in this time by, and then you're looking at Nick Miller, and, he's been out front about 10 laps on this tank. So can you stretch it to 20 laps is the question. I mean, that feels like a pretty long time, especially when you look at guys like Blake Reynolds, like Dylan Alt, like Kevin McAdams. Dylan Alt and Blake Reynolds, namely, are just about 4 laps behind him on fuel, and everybody else pitted about 3 laps ago. So I think Nick Miller is probably not good on fuel, but the real question is if Dylan Alt and Blake Reynolds are going to be good on fuel.
But you don't want to let your competition know you're not great on fuel. Do you really want to be that driver who says, oh, I can't make it, I'm just here to have fun? No, that's how you end up getting taken 4 wide.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to live this race in your head if you're Nick Miller right now. I mean, definitely want to be cognizant of, this restart here. Make sure you don't get past, because then it's all for naught anyways. So, I mean, maybe you catch a caution here with maybe 2 or 3 to go, and everybody's kind of caught up on tires, fuel, and everybody comes down. So, I mean, if you're Nick Miller, you definitely don't want a short run here because, you don't want to have to run this entire lap. These cautions help you because you're not going to be burning as much fuel. You'll have opportunities to clutch it, coast a little bit more, but still just really hard to accomplish, especially at a track as big as COTA.
Expecting the signal for 1 to go now down the back straightaway to double them up. Nick Miller in the race lead, followed by Blake Reynolds. I think it depends on the playing with Elmo sequence. Kevin McAdams, Colin Fern is up there as well. Dylan Altz is amongst the top 5. Colin Fern is currently amongst those wanting to stake a claim to the top 5. Jake Pullen wants to stake a claim to the top 5. Everybody's trying to stake a claim for 6. And now they'll double them up to fully secure things. Now it's the matter of how they go out of turn 1. Because that has been, after the attrition spot being turn 11 earlier, morphed into the attrition area of the track tonight with 9 to go when we get back racing.
Yeah, I mean, as we've seen all night, the control car has the advantage, obviously. One of the advantages of being the leader. It's been how much of an advantage are you going to get? Nick Miller has damage, and, before that damage, before the strategy really wasn't showing the speed to be able to hold it with guys like Dylan Alt, Blake Reynolds. So I'm really interested to see if he's able to get enough of a gap going into turn 1 to really hold a lead over these guys, these hard-charging guys behind him. I mean, Dylan Alt going to be on that outside, maybe he makes a move like Graham Bolin. Doesn't want to fence it, probably. Definitely not going to send it as much as Graham Bolin did, but, wouldn't be surprised to see a big move here by either him or Blake Reynolds.
So just about to get back underway. Staying shuffle about. Now the field has settled down and has stopped playing with Elmo, so it's currently Miller, Alt, Reynolds, McAdams, Fern, Poulin, Mills, Horn. Amongst the top drivers for this restart, also up towards the front, Jurassic. You also have Michael Cozy Jr. making his way back to the top 10. He was spun around a few laps ago, mind you. And despite significant chassis damage, possibly, he's got a shot to battle for this race win. The Kick in the Tires 200K has really challenged drivers tonight. Can Nick Miller stand up to said task? Pace car is off. Green flag waits up at the stand. Back underway. Another good restart for Nick Miller. Blake Reynolds looking hungry to battle for second.
Dylan Alt looks like he's going to throw a mini block down to the inside, going to send it in. Kevin McAdams as well. Side by side for second, not able to close up to Nick Miller probably like he wanted to, but now Dylan Alt, this race is in his hands. He's going to come down and is starting to enter the S's. Can he carry?
More cautions, more cars spinning. Wyatt Tinsley involved in this one. They were 5 wide through that section, but it's Tinsley, Mitch Hobbs, Andrew Cootie amongst those collected, and we're back under yellow for another restart.
My goodness, and just definitely been a cautions breed, cautions race tonight, especially at a track like COTA. I mean, my goodness.
The attrition continues to build up. So Spencer Ray ends up getting a meatball flag from this end.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of same thing we saw in that last caution. Just lots of guys, towards the back of the pack, really feeling desperate. Coming down to 9 to go. It's crunch time. So you got to make up as many moves, or as many spots rather, as you can. And turn 1 off this initial restart is about as prime a place to do it. And when you start to get 5 or 10 cars trying to do the same exact thing, you just don't have the room for it. You see just kind of how spread out they are. There's nowhere for these guys to go. It's just too narrow for them to be able to do that. So a lot of that just comes down to self-control, making sure you kind of space out your moves a little more and don't try to get it all in one corner. But as we've seen so far tonight, that hasn't been the main train of thought.
Nick Miller, by the way, is still in the race lead in all of this. Amongst those, by the way, who are trying the strategy gambles, we mentioned Kevin McAdams. He's amongst your front runners currently. We'll see how he decides things, though, when the pit lane will allow drivers to go into said lane. Now, we're staying out for now, it looks like. I think he also has to find the pace car. Hence the delay of the opening to the lane.
Yeah, I mean, all these cautions really working out to Nick Miller's benefit. What started out as, just a kind of for a few laps, maybe try to lead a few laps, has turned into he's a legitimate race contender now. We saw it in turn 1 there. He was, he had just enough speed to contend with Dylan Alt. So, maybe under this caution, he'll be trying to just spread this fuel out, hoping to get to 8 to go. With the cautions unfolding like they are, there's a very real chance that he has the lead all the way up until 2 to go.
Jonathan Oates, lucky dog again. He is back on the lead lap as a result in 36th position. For those keeping score at home, your incident count leader is Cosman with 140. Yes, 140. And we're not even at lap 30 yet.
My goodness, 130.
Did we mention Circuit of the Americas is known for incident points?
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, and Jonathan Oates just about hit some of the lead lap cars trying to get the lucky dog. He nearly rammed the back end of Brian Mercurio and I believe it was maybe Kevin King for a second.
Yeah, interesting there. We've seen a few incidents under caution so far tonight, namely Kevin King going off track in turn number 20. You see him, hopefully he makes it through cleanly. We'll watch it here just to make sure.
And he's clear of the field. He is clear to go as fast as he can. Meanwhile, for the drivers going at pace speed, falling behind Elmo, or in iRacing's case, there is Barney the Flagman. Benny the pace car driver has been the name floated about by those in the sim race community as of late. Here's a look at Benny and his pals looking to try and go in formation and go for a photo. Benny is the race leader in led laps, by the way, unofficially. And now they're bump drafting down the straightaway, because why not?
I mean, at a track like COTA, you got the time under caution to pretty much do whatever as long as you, through turn 18 and turn 19 kind of get caught up so you can be ready to go. But this track is just so long. It's, really kind of been a statement of controversy of, maybe trying to figure out a way to shorten these yellows at road courses. But no solution for that yet. So you'll see what you see right now under caution. Just guys kind of messing around with each other until we again get towards the latter portion of this lap.
I mean, we could play hide and go seek with the pace car. Find a way to play hide and seek while doing a pace lap. I believe there's a way of doing it, but it involves a lot of everything to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at about 3 minutes per lap.
Actually, 4. It's 4 minutes once you're behind the car.
My goodness. So, yeah, I mean, you got plenty of time to kind of do whatever you want. So, you see Nick Miller here. Yeah. We've seen a lot throughout the night, guys just kind of passing the pace car, especially into like turn 11, that kind of area, exiting the S's. You see it, Dylan Alt right here, Blake Reynolds. I mean, just kind of messing around, finding a way to pass the time.
We mentioned some of the facilities here at this racetrack. This facility, mind you, massive in the state of Texas. And that shouldn't be a surprise since things are bigger in Texas. Pit stops coming up and Nick Miller's dreams are over. He is pitting for fuel. And he is the only driver in the front of the field who has to come down.
That's going to put this race in the hands of Dylan Alt and Blake Reynolds. As I was saying earlier, these are the guys that you really want to watch to see if they can stretch it because, they're on they just took lap 9 on this set of fuel. So, you're coming around with 7 laps to go, 6 on the restart. That's 14 laps. That's longer than we've seen anybody stretch it out tonight, which in part is because of our stage length being only 10 laps. But it's still something that you want to watch out for because Blake Reynolds, Dylan Alt are the only 2 on this fuel strategy. Everybody else behind, guys like Colin Fern, Kevin McAdams, Jake Poole, and Landon Mills, they all pitted 3 laps after Blake Reynolds and Dylan Alt. So, they're good to they're good to the end on fuel rather. So just a question on if Dylan Alt and Blake Reynolds are going to be able to put themselves in that same category.
Munsos, remember, trying different calls here with the fuel-only situation. As mentioned, Kevin McAdams, who's in the top 4. It's going to be an intriguing run for him at this point. We'll get the chance to speak with him. In fact, he's standing by with you, in fact, Caleb. Welcome to Kevin McAdams time.
Hello.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin, I mean, what else can I say? We were talking pre-race, and you were talking about just expecting to be riding around the back, and here you are, 7 laps to go, and you're running 4th. Obviously, some of these wrecks, some of this damage has, worked in your favor, but, what else can you say about tonight that's put you in such a good position?
Well, the one thing that I think I have to my advantage is, strategy. Me and Naraki always talk about strategy with these races, and we anticipated, things kind of going downhill, and obviously it has. I was talking to you earlier, and I qualified, 26? I think that was my best lap all night so far, and I have no business being up here, but hey, if they keep wrecking behind me and around me, and I avoid it, and I end up somehow getting a Mickey Mouse top 10, I'll look forward to going into next week with a decent points day tonight. But long way to go. There's a chance of 3 green-white checkered still, so we're still even worried about fuel conservation. So we got 6 to go in regulation, but it could end up being another 12, 13 lap finish. Here we might end up going to the regular distance, was supposed to be in the 40s. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, coming into tonight, the big talking point was just kind of the different procedures that FTF had adopted tonight. Obviously, the stage cautions are very unorthodox for what we're used to in the Barr Visual FTF Cup Series. Not only the stage cautions, but closing the pits. How does that all kind of accumulated together to kind of affect the strategy tonight?
Well, it's more of even just an entertainment perspective. No one likes to watch some of those road races where everyone gets spread out, you get spun, your race is over. This kind of gives you a chance to kind of recollect your thoughts, recollect, your race, and get back to work. And I wrecked myself earlier in the race, I think on lap 2, and I was 37th or 38th spot, and look where I'm at now. So it's allowed some people to put themselves in a good spot with strategy that don't have a lot of speed like me, but it's also allowed guys to kind of separate themselves from the rest of the fast guys like Dylan Alt and Blake Reynolds. They're up here still just because they played the strategy right. Some guys just have not. So it's different. It's unorthodox. We didn't anticipate as many cautions as we had, but it's been an eventful race thus far here tonight at COTA.
Absolutely. About to go back green. Thank you, Kevin, for your time. We'll let you go back down.
Y'all have fun.
That's Kevin McAdams. He's amongst the top 5 for the restart. Amongst the top 10 of the point standings entering this evening as well. And oh, by the way, his car for Speed Incorporated 3rd in the owner's points entering tonight. But we're about to get back underway, and 2 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers are ready to go at it now for the race win. 6 to go in the Kicking the Tires 200K. Reynolds and Alt at the front of the field, followed by Colin Fern, Kevin McAdams, Jake Poulin, Landon Mills, Connor Horn, and Michael Cozy Jr. Green flag is out. We're racing again from the Circuit of the Americas. And Alt tries to hold off the Hornet's Nest. 4 wide behind him. Reynolds keeps it calm. Fern goes for the send for 3rd, and now for 2nd. Off to the side goes Alt. Alt into the grass. Reynolds to the race lead.
About worst case scenario for Dylan Alt right there. That hands the lead over to Blake Reynolds. Colin Fern made a great move, which ends up paying off big time. He finds himself P2 as he hits the rumble strip. Now he's going to have to try to merge safely in front of Landon Mills. He's going to lose that 2nd position. Now Blake Reynolds has sole control of the lead, and it's all on behind him.
Battle hard for 2nd with Mills up to P2. Connor Horn joins the fun as well. Some of the Smith cars making their way to the field. What a restart. Reynolds up by 1.6 seconds. Fern says, I'll take 2nd back, thank you very much, and brings Connor Horn with them. Horn now says, I'll take 2nd myself. The other Smith car in Landon Mills spins in the heart of the racetrack and tries to move up forward in front of the field. No caution yet. We still stay green as they wreck at the back of the pack.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to keep it green, maybe in an effort to avoid some of these other cautions, but Blake Reynolds sitting pretty now. Connor Horn had a great move on Colin Fern there in turn number 11. Now it's just a matter of can he get back to Blake Reynolds.
And keep in mind, Reynolds, a really solid road course rainer himself. Any NASCAR competition, not going to be an easy task. Horn up to second fully. Fern shuffle back to third. Here's a look at Connor Horn. Despite being in a race high second, looking very calm, coming up to 5 laps to go. 3 wide behind them. Amongst those getting squished around was Dylan Basin. By the way, Alt, he's out of the race. He is done for the night.
Yeah, several guys now finding themselves out of the race. Looks like Brandon Hawken has packed it up as well, and these are guys that have been top 5 all night. So now you're looking at a top 5. Some very quiet names up here. Blake Reynolds, obviously. Connor Horn, Colin Fern. Michael Gonzalez has found his way back up inside the top 5. Michael Cozy Jr., after sitting on that 10th-ish line all night, has now found himself inside the top 5. We're on board with Dylan Basin right there.
Oh, and there goes Miller. He spins in the heart of the racetrack. Rabideau slams on in. They do donuts in the heart of the racetrack. We stay green for now as a third car gets involved, and that's enough to trigger the caution.
About to say, wow, really hesitant to throw the caution there, and I completely understand it from the FTF admin standpoint, but there are cars in the middle of the racing line right there. Got to get that caution out.
Well, this race just had everything happen yet again, and a little bit of a bandstand on top of that. But Miller ends up going around. Austin Johnson gets collected. Man, this gets interesting now to how this could go out.
Yeah, I mean, talking to Kevin on that last restart, you heard him say that he's fully anticipating this race potentially extending into the 40s range. And, obviously Dylan Alt not really a contender now after that lap, or that turn 1 incident rather, but Blake Reynolds is still one of those guys that's going to have to stretch it if he wants to make it that far. And if he does pit, that hands control of this race to Connor Horn, Colin Fern, guys that haven't been up front all night.
Here's what happened to end Alt's race. You see him spinning around and he says, I'm done. And then you have everything break out around that turn 1 point. Some of the drivers were battling hard in front, and then around goes Miller. 1 car spins, 2 car spins, 3 car spins. Counting is fun.
Yeah, just really unfortunate there. And Nate Stewart obviously sitting in front of Cosmin Ionescu there. You got to get that yellow out. So as much as we want to see green flag racing here, just unfortunately no other way around it with cars sitting in the middle of the racing line around a blind corner.
But it's Blake Reynolds in the race lead, and now with him up at the front of the pack and still catching the pace car, will we have enough gas for the green-white checkered? Because that was something we got confirmation for just prior to the restart. Miller pit because he was concerned on that point.
Yeah, looking through right now, so, as we were talking about last caution, Blake Reynolds is on lap 12 of this stint, Connor Horn on lap 9, so about a 3-lap discrepancy there between our lead car and everybody else behind him. The next car you'll find off cycle is going to be Kyler Wynn in the number 82, and he pitted about 3 laps ahead of Blake Reynolds. So no way he's going to make it if we get an overtime segment to this race. Blake Reynolds really stretching it. He is clutching it right now, just trying to conserve any amount of fuel he can at the moment, just to try to stay out front.
And Reynolds, keep in mind, has been a top 5 driver most of the night. Started up in the top 5, has maintained that position quietly, and now he not only gets to become Benny, he looks to try and become a race winner in 2022 here on the road courses. it could get interesting, to say the very least, when it comes to the 66. And keep in mind, he talked about looking to help this team develop in FTF competition. It's been an intriguing year for him so far. Representing First 4 Racing, he leads that team overall in the owner standings, specifically when it comes to their car numbers. The 73, also amongst the top 15 for that respective grouping. He's been a good part of that core, I think you could say, Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, Blake Reynolds, obviously the flagship team over at First 4 Racing so far this season, and there has been so much parity so far this year in FTF. I mean, every week we've had a different winner. No one has won 2 races yet this season. Blake Reynolds obviously yearning to become the first at the moment, but I mean, there's no guarantee that he makes it to the end, on fuel. Guys like Connor Horn haven't won. Colin Fern obviously making his first start. Michael Gonzalez has found himself inside the top 3 what seems like every week he's attempted. And, now can very well find himself up in victory lane. Michael Cozy Jr. has had a quiet 2022 so far. Is absolutely in contention here. Kevin McAdams as well. I mean, there are tons of guys that haven't won up here behind Blake Reynolds, who is, definitely don't pencil him in for the win just yet.
And the crazy thing about all this, we mentioned Fern. We've talked about this a couple times. He's been someone who has been around the sim racing world for a long time, Caleb. Worked in the real world industry as well for Brandonville Motorsports. He's got a chance to win in Start 1 in FTF competition. It's his debut tonight from 27th. This would be a phenomenal development for him in his esports development, especially knowing he was in contention for M&R competition. He looks to do well in his first race for 2022.
Yeah, as you alluded to, his 2022 debut tonight. He has a few prior starts in FTF, but it would definitely be a statement if he was able to win at a track like COTA, which is a race of attrition. As we've seen, tons of crashes, tons of cars with damage. He's obviously one of them. And to just be patient and find his way up front. If he can win tonight, that would, definitely be a welcome development for that 068 or 086, excuse me.
Absolutely. Huge chance if he can capitalize here. But he also has drivers like Fern, like Gonzalez, like Cozy Jr., who have some chances here. But here comes the big question mark. Who has to come down with the tightness on the fuel for the potential of up to 4 restarts in this race left? Reynolds is staying in front of the pace car, so that prevents him from deciding. It looks like everybody else is electing to stay out on the racetrack. No one wants to give up the track position for obvious reasons, with 3 to go.
Yeah, I mean, we're inside 3 laps to go. If you're Blake Reynolds right now, you're either coming home in victory lane or you're coming home on a wrecker. I mean, no chance you give up the lead right now with 3 laps to go, potentially looking at more.
Keep in mind, there's one other driver on the same lap cycle as Blake Reynolds for reference. That's Landon Mills, who was involved in some of the incidents before, with a couple cautions ago. Again, one of the Smith Racing drivers. And the Landon Mills Designs machine is now standing by on the radio. Landon Mills now jumps on in here for tonight's coverage of the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series. Landon, how are things looking for you, especially on the fuel mark, coming up to 2 to go?
The biggest concern is the fact that I was in position. I've got like 3 laps here, so just on the mark. I don't know if I'll make it to the end, but I do know that the more caution time that we have, the more I can save. And I think I'm just on the mark here. I think I'll be good if it goes green, but it's gonna be interesting. It really sucked that I kind of threw that away there. I was in a good position, and but well, try to survive here and maybe get up there and have another shot. But we shall see.
It's been a very wild night, it seems, across the board, and talk us through your progression to get yourself to this point, to be one of those drivers who could be battling for a spot around the top 10, especially with many of the contenders outbreaking themselves and finding themselves in the tire barrier, sometimes 3 times in the same stage.
I mean, the biggest part is getting through turn 1, which I can get through, but fact of surviving is always difficult. So the car is fast despite the damage. I feel like I've got the speed to go there, and even if we have a lap or two, I feel like I can claw up into the top 10 or whatever, maybe get a good finish. But like I said, it's been kind of a teeter-totter, just either top 5, top 10, or P30. You know, it's just one of those nights. But you know, we'll see what we can get here. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Keep in mind as well, some of your technical lines mates are in contention, such as Connor Horn.
Yeah, he's P2, so hopefully he can go get it if I can't get it. But it's going to get interesting here. We might have as much as 4 green-white checkers here. But like I said, it's just going to be interesting. It's probably going to have a bunch of cars spinning the opposite way or whatever. But hopefully we can get through it and, like I said, get a good finish. But, you know.
Once you get back to the car, good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, Justin.
That's Landon Mills. He's 14th currently. And that gives a good complexion on the fuel situation for Blake Reynolds, coming to the green this time and a natural green-white checkered. If Mills is only comfortable with this one restart situation, Reynolds could be in a tough spot himself now, Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Blake Reynolds right now, you definitely want this thing to end. I mean, you got 2 laps to go. You don't want to, chance it on fuel if you don't have to. So Blake Reynolds right now desperately wanting to get through this lap clean, get to the 1 to go, and then have it just be over from there.
Your top 10: Reynolds, Horn, Fern, Gonzalez, Cozy Jr., Wynn, McAdams, Helton, King, Mercurio. Couple more turns before the restart. What do you do to be able to make sure you get this checker flag, especially if it goes green to the white flag trigger?
I mean, from what we've seen so far tonight, Blake Reynolds, the control car, is going to have a huge advantage into turn 1. If you're Connor Horn, you don't want to make the same mistake that guys like Graham Bolin and Dylan Alt have made tonight and just being over-aggressive into turn 1. You have plenty of time. COTA's a long track. Bide your time. Make sure you're in it at the end.
Natural green-white checkered coming up. Reynolds looking for the victory. Can he be the eNASCAR driver who does it tonight with so many twists, so many turns, and so many contenders losing their chances late? He looks for win 1 of the season. Pace car is off. 2 laps to go from COTA.
Ooh, Colin
And a
Fern.
big tire spin. Fern gets loose. Fern drops back. Colin Fern out of contention. Horn goes for the send for the race lead. Hard. He tries the outside. He nearly sends himself as they wreck behind for 3rd. Everybody's off. Everybody's out of the runoff. Everybody stacks up. A big one as the green-white checkered has not been triggered yet. What a sequence as everybody gets loose.
Oh,
Now it's out.
Is now out. And that is not what you want to see if you're Blake Reynolds. You got 3 more laps to go now. And 1 more chance for Connor Horn. He is so lucky that that caution came out. He overshot it into turn number 1 and very nearly cost him a chance at this race win.
15, 20 drivers all overshot the corner, Caleb. That's not a good recipe for making it out of the corner.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take a look again here. So I believe a lot of that was Colin Fern, that wheel spin that he had just opened up a power vacuum. A lot of these guys saw a gap for 3rd, and a lot of them just went for it. Super aggressive. You see Michael Gonzalez involved here. Just backs it up. Wow, hold the brake, my guy. Just tons and tons of cars just pile in. My goodness. And again, it's just turn 1 so narrow. You have nowhere to go if, especially if 10 or 15 cars, you might get piled up right there.
Michael Cozy Jr. got a black flag in the sequence. We'll see if that sticks. Wow. There is the reason there. Michael Cozy Jr. does get the EOL penalty. He is the trigger here in part, as everybody else stacked up like Lego bricks around him and in front of him. And then Mitch Hobbs sends it on in and turns Jake Poulin.
Yeah. Tough break for Jake Poulin there. Just made it through cleanly and unfortunately got involved. And my goodness, tonight, I mean, just caution after caution. It's just been really unfortunate that we haven't been able to see a green flag run develop. But this is big now for Blake Reynolds. There's no way he pits right here, but at the same time, are you going to be able to, go almost 20 laps on a run of fuel?
Blake Reynolds is really slowing down the pace speed. He's going 50 miles an hour. Now he jumps it up to 85 as they try and pick it up. Green-white checkered officially initialized. And here's an interesting thing. This actually counts as a second attempt, apparently. I am not sure how, but when they tried to trigger the first caution, I think amongst that situation, that might have burned a GWC to get the trigger to launch.
Yeah, I mean, again, not sure how that went down in iRacing's kind of just logic system. Maybe that caution got triggered a little too late. Again,
but it was with 2 to go.
Yeah.
And it was a natural green-white checkered situation. Usually don't get the trigger until you get within 2 to go to start the attempts.
Yeah, I believe it. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that first green-white checkered shouldn't be triggered until you take the white flag.
This is going to get interesting on how this fares out the rest of the way. This is being discussed.
Yeah, I mean, it's good news either way for Blake Reynolds, who now has, 2 less laps to worry about at a track like COTA, which is so huge. 2 laps at COTA is, that's a big difference.
Blake Reynolds really trying to save the gas right now. And again, for those tuning in to emphasize, the initial green-white checkered attempt was set up for a natural GWC. Instead, that technically counts for the first GWC. We're on second GWC attempts coming up here. Justin Malillo now jumps into the booth. Justin, how's things been from Race Control's perspective?
It's been all right, Justin. Thanks for asking. This is going to be our second green-white checker attempt. As you were just explaining, there was a glitch between the track just having different start-finish line. Jake was trying to explain it to everybody, but it counted that first restart that we just had there at lap 35 as our first green-white checker attempt. And it also added a lap for some reason. So this is going to be our second green-white checker attempt, and we will have only 2 green-white checker attempts tonight.
Thank you very much for the clarification. And just out of curiosity, what's the incident count at?
Well, I mean, we're working our, 9th caution here tonight. As far as incident counts, Cosman is leading the way in that. He has 188 incidents in that number 84 machine. I don't know how he does it. He's got 50 more than anybody else. So, yeah, these guys are getting all the off-track incidents because this is NASCAR and we don't obey track limits, except for the S's where it will slow you down.
Indeed. Given Mike Cosman's got a cleaner car than some of the others, despite that incident mark, but we'll let you get back to Race Control as we get ourselves settled on down for the second GWC. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Justin.
Justin Malillo joining us from Race Control as, again, the games for fuel are about to break out with Blake Reynolds really tight on that mark. Landon Mills mentioned he might not be able to make it through a GWC.
Yeah, I mean, Landon Mills, again, it was Kyler Wynn that we were mainly focused on because he is 18 laps currently into his run. But Landon Mills is looking at about lap 15, which is the same lap that Blake Reynolds pitted on.
Yeah.
So really,
Coming to lap 16.
Yeah, really interesting to see right here because you're going to have 2 laps under green. And that's 18 laps. That's almost double our stage lengths that we saw earlier, which is what guys are typically comfortable with in terms of stretching on fuel. So really going to push Blake Reynolds outside of his comfort zone. I don't see any world where he comes in right here from the lead. He's just, I think he's either going to win this race or he's gonna come home getting pushed by somebody else. There's just in no world I believe he pits.
And you see him really trying to clutch and coast it, not coming in as expected. Michael Gonzalez has had some troubles at the back of the grouping. Still keeping on going, I think. He's 33rd. And he's kicking up some smoke because he's spun trying to catch up to the pack, and he'll just come into pit. Jake Pullen is also in. Everyone else staying out for the green-white checkered attempt. So the second GWC attempt coming up right here. And the games are on to see who takes the checkered here at COTA. Your pick, Caleb?
Looking at the guys we have up front, just Blake Reynolds is he's too close on fuel for me to be comfortable picking him at the moment. I really want to, pay attention to Logan Helton, another guy who's just been really quiet tonight. Maybe even Kevin King, who after a few early incidents has found his way inside the top 5. So my pick right now would probably be Logan Helton, just because I believe he has a little more of that experience in league. And, fuel-wise, he looks to be, probably sitting the best out of most of these guys up in the top 3.
I would argue more so Dylan Basin in terms of track position in the fuel marks, because he pit under one of the cautions a little while ago. He's got 3 more laps in turn in the tank. And then on top of that, an extra 3 laps more so for Liam Sheen and Matthew Zwack, who are 11th to 12th.
Yeah, plus Dylan Basin, that car does look very, very clean compared to everybody else around him. Dylan Basin absolutely would not surprise me. It's just a question of if Dylan Basin is going to be able to get around all these guys, and not only 2 laps, but without burning his stuff up before guys like Blake Reynolds, guys like Connor Horn, Logan Helton pull a gap to that second pack behind him.
Meanwhile, you see Dylan Basin and his Batcave, and Logan Helton just doored a driver. He just doored his former technical alliance mate and Kyler Wen.
That's an interesting development. Don't believe it was intentional, but still, that could impair that car just a little bit.
Well, that adds some damage to both of them. But either way, it's Reynolds in the race lead, who is very tight on the gas. Connor Horn tries to whistle his way possibly to a win in second. Helton, Wen, Basin, King amongst the top 5 in top 6 drivers. 7th position on the track right now is Durasic, followed by Fern, who spun the tires last restart, Ryan Doucette, Michael P. Frisch, and all of this is still in the top 10.
Yeah, looking right now, Blake Reynolds, the big story of the night, is he going to be able to stretch that fuel tank almost 20 laps en route to a win? Connor Horn, he's been really quiet all night, but he's been quietly up front, and that's what matters. Logan Helton, another guy, has a fair amount of damage. Kyler Wen, somebody who's probably not going to be able to make it here, but he's going to try to stretch it nonetheless. Dylan Basin, Kevin King, who was involved in accidents. So many storylines, and it all culminates to right here. This restart right here could be everything coming down to this.
Couple more sections of turns to go through before the green flag, and everybody's starting to play the games already. Practicing when they're going to be able to get through the gears. Keep in mind, 5 forward gears in this next-gen machine. Some drivers may utilize all of them on the way to launching themselves to victory lane tonight.
Primarily seeing everybody launch out of that first gear, really kind of wondering if anybody's going to be tempted to launch out of second gear, because there is going to be a disadvantage to doing that, but with your revs lower, you'll be using a little less fuel. And if you're Blake Reynolds, is that something that you really want to try here?
Is he going to be up for grabs though if he does try it? They now set up for the restart. To the restart zone. Green flag is out. 2 laps to go. GWC 2 from Circuit of the Americas. 2x2. 1 car already going hard to the inside. Dylan Basin going hard to the outside. He tries to break along the rumble strips. 4 wide. 1 car sends it. They fight hard and bounce off each other for second. Helton up to P2. Horn gets turned. More cars wreck. The points leader and Frisch involved. We stay green for now as they stack up in the S's.
Colin Fern sent it in very deep and just nowhere to go at that point. But you see it back here, further wrecks happening. Caution flag is now out. We are going to use our final green-white checkered.
And now it gets interesting. Caution again is out. Blake Reynolds is in the lead with Hilton up to second. And will the sim give them the green-white checkered? Because this, remember, is a track and Grand National Series competition where triggers for GWCs were tricky. But it was a really bold run in the turns 1 and 2 for a lot of the field to battle for the top spots. Again, we'll have to take a look at what happened here, but we're waiting for clarification if this will be the end after what has been a wild night, Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, that is our 10th caution on the night, and then a place like COTA can be very grueling and demanding, just past 2 hours and 8 minutes in our session so far tonight. So really, it's just been a very long night. Blake Reynolds, I know, is really hoping he can walk away with a victory. Would be very disappointed to spend all this time up front and come home with anything less than a checkered flag.
Colin Fern, EOL. Why? Well, this is why.
Yeah, that would do it. I mean, look.
And then watch the rejoin.
Yeah, just you can't do that. I mean, there is a car clearly right there in a lane, and just a little bit of a misjudgment there on the rejoin right there. Definitely just comes back into him and clips him, and then it's kind of on from there. You see Brian Mercurio, just cars going everywhere. Just at a time where it's 2 laps to go, the desperation is so high from a lot of these guys to make up positions, because those positions are so important in the grand scheme of points, that you got to do whatever you got to do, and unfortunately just not enough room for it.
Okay, so the sim has now officially given the clarification itself that this will be the final attempt at a green-white checkered coming up. And remember, when it comes to FTF competition, it's similar to what you've seen with Winsdale, where it's basically sudden death to the end. You don't get the caution to freeze the field, so you better keep it clean if you want to win. And if you're Blake Reynolds, you better hope you don't run out of gas at a track that is almost 4 miles long.
Yeah, I mean, our green-white checker rules here in the iRacing simulator are, similar to the ones that NASCAR had a few years ago, where after that third attempt at a green-white checkered, you're just not going to get any more cautions, even with incidents which are most likely going to happen on this restart. So, not like the overtime that we're used to in real life, but it'll have to make do. Coming to 2 laps to go on a restart. Can Blake Reynolds, not only hold off the cars behind him, can he stretch his fuel all the way to what is almost lap 20 of this run?
Tappers are definitely going to be flaring after this kick in the tires, 200K, to say the very least, by the way.
Absolutely.
But again, Blake Reynolds is trying to go the longest out of anybody, albeit with a lot of caution laps mixed into the bag of treats. Just trying to confirm with the amount of laps turned at the moment with what has been a wild night in his regard. We've had caution triggers since about lap 22, if you look at some various charts on continuous laps turned.
Yeah, again, hard to imagine that we would be right here after a stage 1 that saw a few lap 1 incidents and then went clean the rest of the way. You had a 10-lap run with no cautions, and now all of a sudden we've had 11 cautions in the past 12 laps, and it's hard to imagine that it's only been 12 laps or so, just because this track is so long. But Blake Reynolds right here again, just 18 laps on fuel, and I mean even guys like Kyler Wynn, I mean, he's lap 21 right now on fuel. How is he stretched it this far? I mean, I get we've had a ton of cautions. 21 laps at almost 4 mile long track seems absurd, especially on a tank that's only halfway limit.
keep in mind, we may have separate data points, have towards 16 laps for win. He, though, is amongst those who might get tight here, too, on the gas. In fact, a lot of people, despite pitting on the expected marks, they might not be able to make it too, possibly, depending on how much they may have burned under some of these cautions. Nick Miller and Wyatt Tinsley have the most fuel on hand in 8th and 9th position, respectively.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys back on. I mean, look how many guys in the top 10 right now have been involved in incidents tonight. I mean, Logan Helton has damage. Kevin King obviously had that big runoff in turn 20 earlier. Dylan Basin, Nick Miller was involved in a few accidents. Wyatt Tinsley was involved in a caution. Ryan Naraki. I mean, this has just been, one of those FTF races of attrition where it all comes down to patience and making sure you're biding your time. And if you're one of these guys like Logan Helton, Kyler Wynn, Kevin King, what's the mindset? I mean, you got 2 laps to go. There's not going to be another caution. I mean, do you send it into turn 1 because that might be your best chance at a victory?
We're going to see how this plays out. Reynolds, as expected, staying out with the track position to go for the win. And now this will be the true test of fuel mastership with this next-gen car, if he can do this. Even though he's trying to pass Benny by 10 car lengths. Logan Helton hoping that the fumes will not last. Win is in the conversation. Kevin King, who has lost his front clip completely at this point, he could somehow win this for the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very stereotypical car. Looks like it's been 500 laps at a track like Bristol or Martinsville, not so much a road course race. And it's running up inside the top 5 really is just a statement of how many incidents we've seen so far tonight. I mean, even guys like Logan Helton have a fair amount of damage. Kyler Wynn has damage. It's just, if you're in this field, more than likely, if you're not named Blake Reynolds, you probably have some sort of damage on that race car.
This is going to be wild, to say the very least. We've gotten confirmation from some, such as Dylan Basin, that with all the cautions, they have 5 gallons of fuel remaining. Austin Johnson's in the mix still. Amongst those who you have to give mention to, remember Gary Waterworth in the first stage had significant damage to the point where he was nearly out of the race completely with the potential to meatball, was laps down. He's in 17th.
Yeah, I mean, even look like guys like Cosmin Ionescu, who has how many incident points tonight again, Justin?
It's probably around 150 at this point.
And he's running inside the top 20 in front of guys like Brian Mercurio. So, I mean, if you got damage, don't throw your hat in the ring just yet, because there are definitely spots to be made on this restart.
Oh, check that. It's up to 221. He's gained about 100 or so in about...
God.
He's gained another one under caution because, of course, he did.
Yeah, we'll see. Does he make it 223 right here? Nah, but yeah, to have 222 incident points in one race is really probably an indication that things didn't really go your way. And again, the fact that he's inside the top 20 right now is just an absolute testament to not giving up on that race car, because it probably doesn't have much left in it, to say the least.
So this is about to get crazy. But they kick in the tires, 200K from the Circuit of the Americas here in Austin, Texas. The point in a return, 2 laps, that's all. To close things out, no cautions will come out from this point forward. The big question: who will be the driver who takes the checker flag? Multiple drivers up at the front have a chance of their first win of the season. Reynolds leads that charge with Helton, Wynn, King, Basin amongst the top 5. This is about to get very nerve-wracking, to say the very least, but the big mark on everybody's mind: can they survive turn 1?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a safe assumption to say that guys like Blake Reynolds, maybe even Logan Helton or Kyler Wynn, are going to finish this race in the top 3 positions. I'm really interested to see as we get into turn 1 right here, who's going to be the one to make a move. Maybe we see another guy like Colin Fern did last restart, send it in from out of the blue to make it try to get back up into contention. But Blake Reynolds has the field in his hands. It's just can he stretch it and can he hold him off?
iRacing pace car dropping off for the final time tonight from COTA. Reynolds on the left side for the restart. Helton on the right side. Barney with the green flag in hand. 2 laps to go from COTA.
Blake Reynolds, great launch. It's going to be up to the guys behind him.
Few drivers getting squiggly. One trying to send it for the battle for 5th. A lock in the send. Reynolds gets moved out of the way by Wynn. Wynn to the race lead for factory setups. Helton gets spun in the middle of the racetrack. Again, this is the race to the checkered. Reynolds tries to keep up with the 82 for the battle for the race win.
And Logan Helton, just like that, finds himself outside of the top 20. Now it's all about Blake Reynolds and Kyler Wynn. Both of these guys, we didn't even know if they would make it. And now we have 2 laps to go.
Possibly 3. Remember, this is the track where 3 green-white checkered laps had happened. Will this be the case again? We'll see if we get the confirmation. Reynolds goes to the right side for the race lead. Wynn on the inside of the corner of turn 11. Wynn with the squeeze. Reynolds with the pull. Reynolds back to the point.
Yeah, Kyler Wynn into turn 11 right there, locked up the brakes big time. Still side by side, a drag race down this long back straightaway into turn number 12. Kyler Wynn has the preferred lane and a little bit of a run. Looks like Blake Reynolds going to send it in a little further down. Still side by side. Kyler Wynn with the nose ahead, but now Blake Reynolds going to get the run off, and now he's going to inherit possession of the lead, but maybe not for long.
Reynolds squeezes Wynn. Wynn spins it. Wynn spins it. He hits Kevin Kane. Kane and Austin Johnson collect each other. Wyatt Tinsley to second. And Reynolds has a big buffer of 4 seconds with a couple laps to go. Now he has a lot of space to save the gas. But if he can't get it to the end, Wyatt Tinsley could become the winner.
And if you're Blake Reynolds right now, that could not have played out better for you. Kyler Wynn got sideways, spun it around, then made contact with second and third. We have more cars off track. But now, as you said, Blake Reynolds inherits a almost 5-second lead to Wyatt Tinsley. We're coming to 1 lap to go.
2 to go up on the board. Keep in mind, remember, the 3 green-white checkered laps we talked about for the Grand National Series last year have come to fruition again. 5 seconds still for Reynolds to coast it along. The battle for second still busy, though. Nick Miller is trying to move back to P2, and Wynn is still there. Wynn nearly spins it again.
Yeah, Wyatt Tinsley, Nick Miller. I mean, all of these guys right now are really desperate to pass each other because Blake Reynolds could run out at any point. He still almost has, 7 or 8 miles to go, even though there are 2 laps to go. So, not a guarantee that he's going to make it, but, if he is able to stretch it, it is almost a 6-second gap margin.
Bad corner, meanwhile, for Wynn. He gets passed by Brian Mercurio. Where did he come from to join the fun again? Mercurio looking to take advantage of all this. He was spun laps ago. He bounces off Johnson. Johnson goes a bit wide. He keeps it on circuit on the exit, though. White flag expected this time by on the track. Wynn holding on to a top 5. Miller up to 3rd.
Yeah, keep in mind, Brian Mercurio was top. He was in 20th, I believe, on the restart and already found his way back up to 7th. Further contact. Looks like Kyler Wynn still getting a little bit sideways, overshoots that corner just a little bit. And look at Blake Reynolds opened up an almost 8-second margin on Wyatt Tinsley. He's pushing it on fuel, but maybe he's just trying to get as big of a lead as he can before maybe looking at a fuel situation. Looks like we have further wiggles.
Reynolds, though, continuing to run off and away in the 66. In-sim white flag expected this time around. Miller trying to still hold on the battle for third. Reynolds trying to see that final flag or so for this one. Lots of drivers scattering about. Reynolds coming across the start and finish line. White flag in sim triggered. Reynolds is already starting the celebration, up by about 9 seconds in cars to avoid. Again, everything will be unofficial here with how crazy this has gotten. Reynolds thinks he's already got it. And it looks like the field is thinking so too, except for Wyatt Tinsley, who's saying, I'm going to keep going just in case.
Yeah.
And now Tinsley spins it off. Still waiting for confirmation if this will be a checkered or if this is the final lap officially.
Yeah, I believe that was it, and Blake Reynolds will be our winner.
Again, it is super unofficial right now is the official wording from Race Control. Everything that you may have expected that could go wild tonight has. I have no clue what just happened.
Yeah, we'll try to get Race Control in here for an explanation, but our ticker does read white flag. But yeah,
again,
I believe Blake Reynolds is our winner.
No one has given official confirmation towards a direction yet about the official lap, but Reynolds at the very least has gotten the confirmation believe that it is the total checkered. Again, results unofficial. But Reynolds already done the burnout with 1.5 gallons he mentioned in the tank left to go. What a finish.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much all over the moment that Kyler Wynn got sideways and not only took himself out of the race, but took P3 and P4 out of the race. So still getting a official word on it, but it looks like Blake Reynolds, Wyatt Tinsley, and Austin Johnson will be our podium tonight.
So, and as some drivers celebrate here, and Nathan Rabideau, the last car running around the circuit, slams his car into the wall. Why don't we take a quick step aside to sort things on out? Again, you're watching FTF Cup Series competition presented by Barr Visuals. The kick in the tires 200K ends in weird fashion here on FTFGG.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12-Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
back under coverage for post-race here for the FTF Cup Series, presented by Barr Visuals again, for the Kick in the Tires 200K. Blake Reynolds, very unofficially, is the race winner currently after another bizarre end to racing at COTA, similar to what happened last year. Reynolds again crossed the stripe in sim white flag. Race control did signal that as the official end as a result of a third lap triggered for a second consecutive year at this track when it comes to FTF competition. But in the end, Blake Reynolds was able to stretch the gas. Blake, that ended dramatically and awkwardly. How are you feeling, though, to break through unofficially to the checkered flag for what appears to be the checkered?
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, to be honest, Justin. That race just just fell apart. It was fun. I mean, stage 1, stage 2, fighting for the points. I'm rewatching that battle with Dylan and Graham and I there for the end of the stage 2 points right now. But I mean, it's just it's unfortunate how that race kind of fell apart. But I'm glad to get the checkered. Didn't expect to win by that margin, I'll be honest. Like, what was it, 7 seconds or something? I'm not sure what happened right behind me there. I was just kind of windshield forward trying to run the best laps I could. The track felt completely different there at the end. I was just tiptoeing my way through trying to get there. But it's always good to get a win. It's good to finally finish a race. It's been like 5 races in a row I've DNF'd.
Yeah, absolutely dramatic night. And the thing is with all that, you were in the popcorn seat, it seemed, every time things went over the edge, so to speak, with drivers licking the stamp and instead managing to knock over the mailbox, drivers going to the tires, drivers bumping and banging for the race lead. You were right there to capitalize each time, it seemed.
Yeah, it just turned out that way. Even on those restarts at the end, like, I'd have these insane launches, but I'm not even braking early. I mean, you saw I missed the corner one time, and people still ran over me. I don't know, like, what's up tonight. I don't know if it's like a respect thing or just people just don't care anymore. I'm not sure what's going on. I feel bad for the FTF admin team because they shouldn't have to deal with this. This league is too good for this to happen, in my opinion. So it's just unfortunate, like I said earlier, how the race kind of fell apart. But dude, I gotta think, we got a new sponsor on board. Did you see the car? What do you think of it, Justin?
Nice looking car, and I was about to say, Complex Simworks jumping on board. You've been picking up a lot of partnerships through this series for that race car, it seems.
Yeah, well, we had one fall apart. We're not going to mention that. But, First 4 Racing, it's just kind of its own thing here in the FTF Racing League with Jonathan Oates, Robert Dorman, and CJ Nemitz over on that team. And it's cool. My buddy Christian, Complex Simworks, coming on board. Brandon Lambert painted this car over at Last Lap. And, it's good to have him on board.
Well, again, congratulations again. Unofficially the winner here at Circuit of the Americas. Congrats on the run.
Yep, thank you.
Once again, that's Blake Reynolds coming in first tonight unofficially at the declared final lap. A lot of craziness in those 2 laps completed about for the finishing totals. Wyatt Tinsley unofficially is second. He's with Caleb.
Whoa, I got second.
Yeah, Wyatt,
Yes.
I mean, we saw you involved in several accidents tonight, to say the least. How did you rebound to a second place finish?
Kelly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no idea. That was like so much like chaos. I don't know how I scammed a P2, but it was awesome. I was involved in a bunch of incidents at the start. First stage, didn't save tires. Once you slid the tires, they're just gone. And then, then fell back to 15th to get stage points. Second stage, I got dumped, did get stage points, and then got ran over again and had 24 seconds of required. In stage 3, somehow made it through every wreck and got second. I don't know, but I would take it. Congrats to Blake on the win. Unofficially, I don't know what happened. I'm looking at the replay stuff, but I think my second place looks good. I didn't dump anyone or anything like that, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. A great rebound for sure tonight from you, Wyatt. we'll talk to you next week at Iowa.
Yeah. It's Iowa next week.
Yeah.
Oh no. All right. Well, thanks everyone on board. Gavin Newton, my team, Tranquility, Martin Swartz, and iFlag. Paint scheme was fire tonight. We'll have another one next week. Maybe something else on board. Yeah. Have a nice one. Good race. Good broadcasting. Stick it through the whole thing.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Yep. Have a nice one.
That's Wyatt Tinsley coming away unofficially second, unofficially third. Austin Johnson. And Austin, at one point you were screaming moans of frustration. How are you feeling now?
I don't even really know, to be honest. I mean, if there was any way that someone could walk into third, I think I did it, because that was one race I could say from the least. Like that was quite the race. I don't even know what to say, to be honest.
I wouldn't say walked into it. I would say having to jump through 3 fire hoops over a tank filled with sharks, as well as a separate tank filled with piranhas, as well as finding a way to jump over the Grand Canyon. But in regards to getting yourself to the spot, you started 20th. Talk us through that progression to make yourself to the field, but also make sure you survive the potential of the attrition in turns 1 and turn 11 tonight.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the race, when it was a little more calmer before the storm came, during stage 1, I was like 13th. I think I felt decent about my pace. I think I was getting better as the race went on, and then it started going towards the deep end, and I started just avoiding the wrecks, and I got in a lot of wrecks. I'm surprised I even got up to third, but I was just right place, right time, and not getting wrecked by anyone or causing any bad feelings to anyone, to not get wrecked by someone. So yeah, I mean, I don't really even know how I got third, but I just happened to be the guy that was in the right place at the right time, I feel like.
An intriguing night to say the very least. And keep in mind, your technical alliance mates in Nick Miller and Kyra Wynn actually crashed at the stripe on the way to finishing 5th and 6th. It was an intriguing night for the team. Anyone you want to thank for your run?
Yeah, I just gotta thank all the guys that were in the race that were from the team. Kevin, I know he was up there late and got an incident. Kyler and Nick, they all had. I was battling with Nick right at the end. He messed up, and I was able to get third from him. But yeah, it was a good race. Just gotta thank Kevin and Johnson Graphics and the team and all the people over there that helped us in the Road to Pro side. And yeah.
Congratulations on the unofficial 3rd place run.
Thank you.
Austin Johnson, unofficially 3rd. I'd like to thank him. Wyatt Tinsley, Blake Reynolds for taking the time to speak with us. An awkward finish, a wild night, an attrition-filled night. If you liked cautions, it was the night for you. If you like strategy, well, you had to find your way through some of the cautions before finding said strategy, with Blake Reynolds just finding a way to get himself a magical fuel-saving tree to win it.
I mean, this is the 2nd week in a row that we've seen a finish like this. I mean, Michael P. Frisch, obviously, at Atlanta last week, kind of worked that same type of fuel magic to come away with a victory. Shout out to P1, excuse me, just, was able to kind of dominate that race. It was just a matter of staying up front, not getting caught back in the accidents further on into the pack. It was just a very long night for sure, and I'm sure Blake Reynolds is happy to come away with a victory in that one.
But with that, a wild night comes to an end for the Kick in the Tires 200K here at iRacing Virtual Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in for tonight's coverage of the FTF Cup Series, again sponsored by Barr Visuals. I'd like to thank them for their support of this series. Congratulations once again unofficially to the race winner, Blake Reynolds from COTA. With that, it's time to say goodbye for Caleb Hoffman, for Zach Johnson. I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching FTF GG. Good night.